Hello, good evening. Market Headlines is ready to provide you a number of informations from business, economic, and capital market sector. And as the pandemic is still ongoing, we will provide you the latest COVID-19 information. And please stay safe by taking some simple precautions, such as physical distancing, wearing a face mask, avoiding crowds, cleaning your hands, and having less mobility. With me, Wicky Adrian, this is Market Headlines. The government ensures that it will maintain the target of inflation, although currently annual inflation is still low. President Joko Widodo asked his staff, including local governments, to remain vigilant, considering that low inflation is also synonymous with declining people's purchasing power.
Inflation, which has been recorded at a low annual rate this year, is not something to be proud of. In the 2021 National Coordination Meeting for Inflation Control, President Joko Widodo said that low inflation doesn't necessarily indicate good economic conditions. This could be a sign that people's purchasing power is still weak. The president explained that the inflation rate, which is far below the 2021 target of 3%, further shows the lack of demand due to the COVID-19 pandemic, so that indications of a decline in people's purchasing power must be anticipated by government officials. For this reason, President Joko Widodo requested that the formulation of the restriction policy be carried out carefully to balance purchasing power, but on the other hand also maintain public health.
Tingkat inflasi yang terkendali di angka 1,52% year on year. Angka inflasi itu jauh di bawah target inflasi 2021, yaitu 3%. Tetapi kita juga tahu bahwa inflasi yang rendah juga bisa bukan hal yang menggembirakan. Karena bisa saja ini mengindikasikan turunnya daya beli masyarakat akibat pembatasan aktivitas dan mobilitas.
The inflation rate was recorded to be relatively subdued. Until July 2021, inflation for the current year is only 0.81% and annual inflation is 1.52%. From Jakarta, Raharjo Patmo for IDX Channel.
Bank of Indonesia sees the inflation rate in 2021 will remain below the target. However, in 2022, inflation is expected to increase in line with improving domestic demand and commodity prices in global markets.
Bank of Indonesia estimates that this year's inflation rate will remain low. Nationally, the annual inflation rate in July 2021 reached 1.52%, still below the target of 3 plus minus 1%. Governor of Bank of Indonesia, Periwarjo, explained that this resilience was driven by maintained inflation expectations and stability of the rupiah exchange rate, although demand and supply availability were still not strong. Peri indicated that this year's inflation trend will remain low in almost all regions. However, next year, the central bank estimates that inflation will increase in line with expectations of the recovery in the economy. This has prompted Bank Indonesia to ask all parties to anticipate an increase in inflation risk next year.
Terjaga rendah di hampir seluruh daerah dan secara nasional tercatat 1,52% year on year. Sejalan dengan terjaganya ekspektasi inflasi dan stabilitas nilai tukar rupiah, belum kuatnya permintaan serta ketersediaan pasokan. Kami perkirakan inflasi pada tahun 2021 dan 2022 akan terjaga dalam kisaran sasaran yaitu 3% plus minus 1%. Meskipun risiko kenaikan inflasi pada tahun 2022 perlu kita antisipasi.
The governor of Bank of Indonesia estimates that the inflation rate in 2021 to 2022 will be at the level of 1 to 3%. The increase in inflation risk next year will be driven by the increase in world commodity prices in addition to recovery in domestic demand. From Jakarta, Raharjo Patmo for IDX Channel.
The Indonesian Consumers Foundation said that independent or paid vaccinations may be implemented if the coverage of free vaccinations programmed by the government has reached 70% of the total Indonesian population. Chairman of the Indonesian Consumers Foundation, Tulus Abadi, responded the government's plan to implement paid or independent vaccinations in 2022. Tulus said based on the WHO standard, vaccines are not allowed to be traded, considering that COVID-19 is a non-natural disaster whose entire management is the responsibility of the state. However, Tulus said a paid vaccination scheme could be implemented if the government's free vaccination program had reached 70% of the total national population. Thus, it is hoped that herd immunity has been built. In addition, priority communities and disadvantaged communities have already received vaccines.
Ini saya kira harus kita kritisi. Pertama, bahwa kalau menurut instruksi Presiden yang terakhir, seharusnya tidak ada vaksinasi berbayar. Saya nggak tahu apakah yang dimaksud ini adalah untuk 2021 atau sampai 2022. Tapi kalau mengacu kepada rekomendasi WHO, maka negara dilarang untuk menerapkan vaksinasi berbayar karena itu merupakan hal yang tidak etis di tengah pandemi seperti sekarang. Kalaupun itu harus dibayar, maka dengan asumsi kalau cakupan vaksinasi gratis sudah mencapai lebih dari 70%. Artinya itu dengan asumsi sudah terwujud rasio yang berfungsi untuk mewujudkan herd immunity.
Moving on to global update, after more than a week of closure, banks in Afghanistan are starting to reopen, drawing crowds eager to finally have physical cash. Meanwhile, Japan expanded its coronavirus state of emergency, adding 8 more prefectures as a surge in infections fueled by the Delta variant. More stories on today's International Minute.
Japan expanded its coronavirus state of emergency for a second week in a row, adding 8 more prefectures, as a surge in infections fueled by the Delta variant strains the country's healthcare system. The government last week extended the state of emergency until September 12 and expanded the areas covered to 13 prefectures, from 6 including Tokyo. Germany will try to help Afghans who work with its soldiers and aid organizations and wish to leave Afghanistan after an August 31 deadline for the withdrawal of foreign troops expires, Chancellor Angela Merkel said on Wednesday. Merkel's government and its allies in the NATO military alliance have been criticized for failing to predict that the Taliban would take control of the country quickly as foreign troops started to pull out. After more than a week of closures, banks in Afghanistan are starting to reopen, drawing crowds of hundreds of people eager to finally have physical cash in their hands once again. Financial institutions in Kabul largely shut on the afternoon of August 15, just before the former President Ashraf Ghani fled and the Taliban arrived in the capital. Initially, the closings were in response to fears that the group's arrival in the city would see bloodshed and looting. President Joe Biden will tell Israel's Naftali Bennett that the U.S. is looking to roll back Iran's nuclear program through diplomacy, but also has other avenues to pursue, a senior U.S. official told reporters ahead of the two leaders' meeting. Bennett, who is meeting Biden for the first time since becoming Israel's prime minister, has voiced opposition to U.S. efforts to restore the 2015 nuclear deal with Iran. IDX Channel reports.
Market headlines will be right back after the break. Stay tuned.
Ingin menjalani kehidupan yang mapan dan masa depan yang sejahtera? Sikapi uang dengan bijak. Mulailah berinvestasi di pasar modal. Dengan membeli saham melalui Bursa Efek maupun perusahaan sekuritas, Anda dapat menikmati hasil keuntungan dari perusahaan-perusahaan besar yang tersedia. Pastikan Anda berinvestasi di perusahaan yang memiliki izin resmi. Cerdas mengelola, masa depan sejahtera. Otoritas Jasa Keuangan. lembaga pengawas industri jasa keuangan yang terpercaya.
Seiring meluasnya cakrawala investasi di tengah pasar saham yang dinamis. Analisa mendalam diperlukan untuk menemukan saham berorientasi value yang menghasilkan kinerja yang tinggi. IDX Channel akan mengulas isu pasar dan pergerakan saham terkini. Saksikan ulasannya bersama analis terpercaya hanya di IDX Channel.
Datu membawakan program berita News Screen yang menghadirkan informasi seputar ekonomi maupun juga bisnis dari dalam negeri.
Aku akan tunjukkan ke kalian semua, aku nggak perlu membalas, tapi you see me, let's see, you see me, let's see, you can see me soon, what I'm doing.
Nah, sejauh ini kritikan terpedas yang pernah diterima apa, Kak?
Kayak gini, aku pernah gini, narimu jelek, gak bagus, apa sih, kamu jadi penari kayak begitu, aku udah pernah yang kayak gitu.
Pelemahan yang terjadi di sepanjang perdagangan hari ini.
Welcome back. Larger government spending causes the state budget to experience a deficit of 336.9 trillion rupiah until July 2021. This figure is equivalent to 2.04% of gross domestic product.
As of July 2021, the Ministry of Finance noted that state spending had reached 1,368.4 trillion rupiah. This figure is equivalent to 49.8% of the ceiling of 2,750 trillion. With this number, the realizations of spending rose by 9.3% year-on-year, which indicates the need for fiscal financing is increasing in the midst of the surge in the second wave of COVID-19. Minister of Finance Sri Mulyati Indrawati said that the increase in state budget spending had not been followed by state revenues.
Nah, dengan penerimaan yang mulai membaik, belanja negara kita tetap coba jaga. Defisit untuk tahun 2020 ini pada bulan akhir Juli 336,9 triliun atau 2,04% dari PDB, di mana primary balance-nya mengalami defisit 143,6 triliun. Pembiayaan yang sudah direalisir 447,8 triliun dari 1.006,4 triliun rupiah.
Until July 2021, tax realizations grew by 7.6%, reaching 946.7 trillion rupiah. Meanwhile, customs and excise revenues grew by double digits compared to last year. With states' revenue still low, the deficit as of the end of July was recorded at 336.9 trillion rupiah. From Jakarta, Raharjo Patmo for IDX Channel.
State budget as the main government's weapon in handling the COVID-19 pandemic again recorded deficit, even though it was still under the maximum limit. But did the state revenues experience a recovery or did not even make any positive development? Let's check the answer in the next infographic segment. This is the state revenue realization as of July 2000. If we take a look at the accounts or posts of government spending amidst the pandemic, including social assistance and subsidy. And to get a clearer view on the state spending posts, let's check the next graphic. This is government spending posts amidst pandemic from January to July 2021. Social assistance as much as 231 trillion rupiah, for subsidy 99.5 trillion rupiah, and for COVID-19 patients care as much as 25.45 trillion rupiah. Finance Ministry stated that spending for social assistance consists of several programs, which are Basic Food Card of 28 trillion rupiah, Family Hope Program 19 trillion rupiah, Cash social assistance reached 17 trillion rupiah and pre-work card program 10 trillion rupiah, and so on. The ministry ensures that social assistance distribution is optimized to be cushioned for poor and vulnerable groups. Meanwhile, for subsidy consists of several categories from energy and non-energy, including microcredit and for entrepreneurs. And hopefully, the government can maintain the safety of state budget, while we must continue our criticism of every steps taken by the government in optimizing the state budget. Stay with us because Market Headlines will be right back after the break.
Indonesia dipastikan sudah terlepas dari jurang resesi ekonomi setelah berhasil tumbuh positif.
Pemerintah melihat bahwa Q4 adalah potensi untuk kita membalikkan keadaan kembali. Kita memperkirakan
We're on the last segment, and the Jakarta Composite Index intraday movement. Earlier today, JCI was opened at the level of 6,102.93. Then approaching the closing time of the first session, the index was on the level of 6,058.22. The index was showing weakening trend by the second session closing time. Index was closed at the level of 6,058.08. In short, JCI went down 0.9%. And we're going to see the sectoral movement leading the dynamics of today's trading. We got technology that went up 0.19%, energy went up 1.01%. Meanwhile, finance went down 1.27%, and infrastructure went down 1.16%. Moving on to top gainers and top losers, here are the key highlights from today's trading session. BGTG went up 1.49% to the level of 272 rupiah per share. LPPF went up 8.73% to the level of 2,490 rupiah per share. BEBS went up 25% to the level of 1,100 rupiah per share. And LUC went up 35% to the level of 270 rupiah per share. Meantime, the top losers for today's trading, we got BBCA went down 0.61% to the level of 32,800 rupiah per share. BBYB went down 6.83% to the level of 1,705 rupiah per share. Trend went down 5.15% to the level of 129 rupiah per share, and Buka went down 3.87% to the level of 870 rupiah per share. And this is the intraday movement of rupiah towards US dollar. Opened at the level of 14,418. Rupiah was also showing strengthening trend towards US dollar, was closed at the level of 14,367. In summary, rupiah went up 0.22%. During first semester of 2021, metal mineral mining issuer Merdeka Copper Gold experienced pressure. The company's net profit of $5.86 million declined by 84.66% compared to the realization in the previous year.
Metal mineral mining issuer Merdeka Copper Gold experienced pressure in the first semester of 2021. The company's net profit declined by 84.66% year-on-year to $5.86 million. The company's revenue was dominated by sales of gold, silver, and copper cathode to third party, which reached $119.62 million. The sales was not in line with the target and leading to a decreasing company's net profit. This decreased net profit, accompanied by the decrease in income, Merdeka Copper's income of $135.417 million was decreased by 31% year-on-year. Even though there are some of company's expenses that have declined, among them is cost of revenue and financial expenses, while the other expenses increased, such as general and administrative expenses and other expenses. IDX Channel reports.
The development of new renewable energy business makes a number of issuers interested to join. One of them is Wintermar Offshore, which plans to try to enter the wind power plant business.
New renewable energy business opportunities are promising as fossil energy start to decrease. Wintermar Offshore has conducted a review to enter the offshore wind power plant business, especially the world's oil production trends continuously decreasing for the last 20 years. For the early steps in starting in this sector, the company have been supporting the fleet in Taiwan to support the installations of wind turbines of the coast. To support the new renewable energy business, the company has been prepared to be able to use the opportunities that will arrive in the future. One of the strategies is to focus on a lean and efficient fleet and improving efficient operations by keeping production costs low. And the other strategy is integrating sustainability into business plan. IDX Channel reports.
Itama Ranuraya's sister company, Wanjakt Indonesia, is accelerating the development of a syringe factory with a capacity of 1.2 billion syringe in 2021 and continuing to hike to 2 billion syringes in 2022. This acceleration is done to fulfill the syringes demand due to COVID-19 needs.
The continuous COVID-19 vaccination implementation makes the demand for syringe continue to increase. Before the pandemic, the need for syringe around 16 billion every year for vaccination and immunization. Meanwhile, after the pandemic, the world needs 8 to 10 billion syringe only for COVID-19 vaccination. With this new factory, the demand for syringe in Indonesia is estimated to be fulfilled. Especially this new factory will also be used for local production of antigen swab tools owned by Abbott Laboratories, which cooperates with Itama Ranuraya. Not only for domestic needs, increasing production also intended for export. Meantime, for funding, the company will prioritize equity options to keep the capital structure remains optimum. IDX Channel reports.
Step aside from market condition as coronavirus pandemic takes a big role on current economic situation, and here is an update data about coronavirus globally. And the news close our market headlines today. Please enjoy our next program on IDX Channel, your trustworthy economic, business and capital market channel. As the pandemic is still going on, keep protecting your family by following the health protocols, wearing face masks, keep your distance and stay away from crowds, and wash your hands through running water. And also continue to support the vaccination program to accelerate the creation of herd immunity. I'm Wicky Adrian. Have a nice evening and stay safe.